All right, thank you very much. And I have the privilege of the after lunch crowd. So I know, yes, we're going to keep the energy up, right, folks? Yes, all right, let's go. So if you have a coffee in your hand right now, I advise you, yes, sir, you have a coffee in your hand. Don't drink it, inject it directly into your veins, and we're going to get going. By introduction, my name is David Fung. I've been in tech for 23 years. Most recently, I decided to leave tech, and I became an executive coach. And now I help leaders in tech with getting things off their mind. Because there's we've been hearing the last couple of days, there's a lot of disruption happening, a lot of identity crisis happening. Well, it's a perfect time to be an executive coach to help you get unstuck. And so on that topic, one of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of days is that we've talked a lot about ideas together. So ideas such as talent, hiring, retention, great ideas. We talked about tooling, like this morning. Now, I'm going to talk about a topic that we haven't broached yet. And it is about ideas, but it's not about the ideas that are around here externally. It's about the ideas that are up here. In fact, it's about the ideas that are in the heads of all of you right now, and what happens when those ideas get out of your mind and hit your teams. Because very often, when these ideas leave your mind and hit your teams, what you're hoping for as a leader is innovation, but a lot of times, and especially right now with AI, your teams are facing confusion. And that's what I'm going to talk about over the next 20 minutes. So, for anyone in here who's like a team lead, who's a leader, I've been a senior director at Salesforce for a number of years. One of the cardinal rules you learn when you go into leadership is that a big part of your job is to filter, filter, filter. Filter the stuff that's coming from above, filter the stuff that's coming from your mind before it hits your team. And you do that as a leader so that you don't confuse your team. But here's the thing I've been observing over the last 18 to 24 months while I was at Salesforce and as well as an executive coach. It seems like that leadership rule book of filtering before things get to your team, it's been thrown out the window. It's been thrown out the window. And I liken that to pushing code to production without any review, without any tests. Now, I know the engineering leaders in this room, you would never let that happen, right? You would never let that happen. Oh, are you laughing because that happened just yesterday? Okay, well, shame on you. In all seriousness, though, it is happening when it comes to AI-related initiatives, not just in engineering, but I've seen it across go-to-market functions such as marketing, customer success, and sales as well. So there's something happening here. Now, how might one of these unfiltered AI-related ideas, how might it manifest itself? How might it look like when it actually lands on your team? Well, let me give you an example scenario. I call it the casual idea. Now, everyone in this room has a phone. And if you have a phone right now, I'm sure you're looking at my profile and you're trying to check me out and looking at my executive coaching services. But if you have your phone, this is one of the things that I want you to imagine for 1 second. Imagine now, at 7 a.m. this morning, you were likely on this phone, checking Slack, getting ready for the day, right? But at the back of your mind, you've been reading all this stuff about Anthropic, their new models, all this AI, API integrations, maybe OpenAI has some new stuff being released. And guess what? You're getting excited, you're getting itchy, and you want to share one of these ideas and initiatives with your team. So instead of getting filtered and running it across some naysayers, you actually decide in Slack at 7 a.m. in the morning to share this idea. And it starts with the notorious 6 words. Hey team, just thinking out loud. Now, I kind of smirk when I write that down. And the reason why I wrote that down, I was that guy when I was at Salesforce. I did that. Yes, but I learned. And that's why I'm a great coach right now. But in all seriousness, mistakes, that's a mistake I honestly made. and the impact was invisible to me, in all seriousness. Because what's the impact of such a casual idea, getting your team wrapped up at 7 a.m. in the morning in Slack? Well, this could be the impact. By 9 a.m., maybe 2 sprints have been canceled. By 12 p.m., you have your engineering leaders pinging you because they don't understand the new priority. And by the end of the day, productivity, your sprints have been put on hold because, hey, the boss has a new idea and we don't freaking understand what is going on. Does that sound familiar to some people here? I see some nods, and it can happen. Here's the difficult thing. And when I did this, and I'm sure for some of the leaders in the crowd here who have done this or are doing it, it's not done to harm. It is done in the hopes of innovation. It's done in the hopes of helping us, advance our technology. But a lot of times, the impact to our teams are invisible. The impact is invisible. So here's a model. What's happening here? What's happening as leaders, when we start pushing all these ideas to our team? Well, if you kind of think of your team and the work as a funnel, there's only so much resources and time your team has. So at the top there, as leaders, we have all these great ideas. We've shared a lot of ideas this week. We have all these great ideas, but here's the thing with ideas. An idea on its own is cheap. An idea in your mind is cheap. But once you drop that idea into that work funnel, that is your team's, that idea suddenly gains mass, it gains weight, it takes up space. And when it takes up that space, it takes up your team's time, it takes up your team's resources. And then when all those ideas start percolating and you start adding it to this funnel and this funnel starts to overflow, guess who's on the receiving end? It's your team. And what you're hoping for is that with all these great ideas, your team is feeling more innovation, and this excitement around AI. But here's the reality of what I am seeing and what you might be seeing in your organizations. It's whiplash and confusion from your teams because it's too much all at once. So the question is, now, why is this happening? Well, let's dig in a little more into the head, okay? I promise it's not going to be a psychotherapy here, but we're going to go into the psychology just a little bit more here. And this is so hard to stop for many leaders. And if you kind of think of, many of us in here, myself included, what got us promoted, what got us into our current roles as leaders and team leads? It was the ability to generate great ideas, lots of ideas, idea generation. And that was shown by, in meetings, you were able to answer questions very quickly, fast answers. You were able to provide individual insight at conferences just like this one at CTO Craft. And most of all, and for those who are working in startups right now, it was this bias to action. Go, 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 let's break things. That's what got you promoted. That's what got me promoted to senior director. But now, we're leaders. We're leaders in an age of disruption, and dare I say, noise. And the leader that is needed of us is different now. We need to not be better idea generators because there's more than enough ideas. My argument here is that we need to be better idea filterers. And that requires some different muscles. An idea filterer, you need to exercise more strategic patience with your ideas, build more organizational trust as you work through your ideas, and most of all, having a bias towards alignment before you execute. Now here's the thing. These are two different muscles here, idea generating and idea filtering. You need to have both. We all need to have both as leaders. But being good in one won't always make you good in the other. So here's the thing I'd like to sit with you right now from this slide. If you recognize this idea-generating compulsion in yourself right now, or in leaders that you know of, It's not a flaw. I'm going to repeat that. It is not a flaw, it's a feature. And what this idea-generating compulsion very likely is, it's a protector. So what's a protector? Well, a protector, it's a part of your personality. It's a part of every single person's personality here. Everyone has protectors. And a protector is a set of behaviors that we learned a long time ago, kept us safe. Whether it's safe from imposter syndrome at work, it kept us safe from layoffs, it kept us safe from shame. We all have protectors. And for many leaders, they have this idea-generating protector. It is protecting who they are, and it's protecting their identity of who they are. Now, if you know of someone, or you see it in yourself, this idea-generating protector, how might it show up in the workplace? What costume does it wear? Well, for some people, it shows up as the visionary. Now, some of the brightest people and the funnest people I've ever worked with are visionaries. The people I'm coaching right now, one of the coolest people I'm working with right now is a startup's visionary right now. And time again, when I work with visionaries, they are able to have this amazing ability to see what others can't. But fundamentally, the visionary, if their underlying protector is overstated, this idea-generating protector, if it is overstated in their personality, the underlying fear is just being ordinary. That's funny. Being ordinary is the underlying fear for many visionaries. Now, what's the other costume that this protector might wear? For others, it might be the expert. Some of the best experts I've worked with in my previous employer sat right beside me. They had 10 patents to their name. They knew everything about the architecture, the APIs, the integration, the latest models being released. They knew everything. They know what others don't. But fundamentally, if this protector of idea generation is overexpressed in the expert, the underlying fear is often being outpaced by their peers, being outpaced by their competitors, but it's being outpaced. So, you might recognize one of these identities at work. It might be you. You might have them. You might express both of them, depending on the situation. Having one of these identities does not mean you are automatically having this idea-generating protector. The important thing here is recognizing if you are one of these, that you're not overexpressing your idea-generating compulsion so that you don't confuse your teams. One more thing. We talked a lot about the what and the why. One last thing I just want to warn everyone about, and it's for leaders that are strong with their opinions, forceful with their opinions, and love to generate these ideas and push it out to their teams at 7 a.m. in the morning. Silence in the room is not alignment. When you pitch this to your team and you ask the team, okay, any questions? Silence might just mean they are resigned to stay silent. They have learned time and time again, the boss generates ideas, then they pivot. They generate, then they pivot. It's probably not worth fighting the boss on this. So they've resigned to silence. And to the leaders in this room, if you hear silence, it's possibly a sign that you're alone on this idea and your team is not fully bought in. All right, we spent the last few minutes talking about the what and the why. If you see this compulsion in yourself, this protector being expressed right now, what can you do about it? Here's 3 things you can do right away. The first step, and this is going to be the hardest thing for someone with this idea-generating compulsion to do. Wait. It's so logical, but it is the toughest thing for people to do. Wait. Wait 48 hours? Okay, fine. There's more pressure in your business. Wait 24 hours. Wait 12 hours. The important thing here is wait. Wait before you execute. I know it's so logical, right? But what you might find is that with all your ideas, a lot of ideas won't even survive 24 hours, and you're on to the next one. So wait. Now, if your idea does survive, here's the next step. Name the trade. If you're getting your team to execute on this idea, what is the cost? Because that funnel of work is only finite. So what needs to go if they take this on? If you can't name it, maybe you need to stop. And I say maybe because I understand there are existential threats, right? Like when Google ran the red alert, when OpenAI came out with some new models, I get it. I get it. But most ideas are not red alerts. Most ideas that you have as leaders, they are not red alerts. They are just ideas. Last thing, and this is probably the most important thing, and I've heard this from a few speakers the last 2 days. You got to have someone on your team who's going to push back. I think it was the panel this morning that said that. Have some skeptics in the room. Who's a skeptic on your team? Yes, they're the pain in the butt. Those are the people you need to keep close because they're going to be honest with you, they're going to test you, they're going to challenge you, and they're not afraid of authority. Those are the people you need to keep close. But for others, if you're in a bigger organization, like the last company I worked for, maybe your naysayer is a mentor in the company. It might be your chief of staff in the company. Either way, it's someone who can speak up, speak truth to power without any consequences. Okay, if you're looking at these three things right now and your eyes are getting crossed and you're saying, Dave, I don't believe you, I can't do this, I need to move fast. This is not possible. What I say to you is, good. That resistance that you're feeling right now, that's a sign. That's a sign that maybe you have this idea generating compulsion, and maybe it's time to consider the first step. Wait. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. 3 takeaways I'd love you to take away from this talk today. The first thing is notice. Notice if you or someone around you has this idea-generating behavior, consistently pushing it out and confusing the team. The second thing, read silence. Read silence as data. Read it as data and not truth. Because if there's silence in the room, you might be alone on the next initiative. And finally, wait. Of the 3 rules, that is the hardest thing to do, is wait. Strategic patience. I'm going to leave you with one last thing. I know we've been talking over the last couple of days around AI and disruption. For many of us in this room, this is probably one of the most disruptive technologies and evolutions we've been through in our careers. It is for mine, for sure. But time and time again, what I've seen is that the best leaders I've worked for and I work with right now aren't the ones that are generating the most ideas. They're the ones who exercise the most focus so their teams can exercise and work on the most important ideas. Thank you. All right, so we're going to go to questions. First question, how do you communicate a pivot in a way that does not invalidate everything the team has already built or decided? Well, here's the framework I like to share with executives. It's so simple, yet it's very difficult. When you're communicating a pivot, first of all, go through those 3 stages, the wait, trade, designate, right? Talk to that naysayer before you communicate this out to the team. But when you are communicating a pivot and it's strategically necessary, there's 3 things I always say to folks. Number 1, what is the pivot? Number 2 is, why are we doing this now? Why is it strategically important now? And number 3, and most important, why does it matter to you? Why does this pivot matter to you? Those are the 3 things. What, why, what's in it for you? Okay, next question. How do you distinguish healthy skepticism from a team that has checked out? Ooh, sounds like, how do you distinguish healthy skepticism from a team that has checked out? Well, the first question I would ask is, why has the team checked out, and what makes them checked out? But look, I can answer the first part, right, is distinguishing healthy skepticism. Skepticism, like, when you have a healthy debate around ideas and around approach, that's excellent. That is something we all need. We all need to fight on ideas. Wasn't Bill Gates, it was Steve Jobs said it the best. We always fight on ideas. We always fight on ideas. And that's something I tried to build in the culture of the teams I led. But at the end of the day, when we're done fighting on the ideas, best idea wins. And whether it was my idea, the boss's idea, or it was your idea, one of my subordinates, when we all decide we're moving on that idea, we're moving together. That's the classic, are you in the boat or not? And if you don't want to be in the boat, maybe it's time to find another boat. But healthy debate is absolutely necessary. All right, next question. Have you ever been the confusing leader in your own story? What made you realize it? Well, I made that confession. I was the confusing leader. Yes, I did it. That's why I did this talk. I figured I wasn't the N of one. I'm figuring that I'm actually more of the in university, talk about the bell curve, I was more the normal, the majority. Here's what I learned, right, is that, and a couple leaders said it over the last couple of days, you can't be so removed from the business that you don't know what's going on, because removing yourself from the business actually stresses you out even more as a leader. Stay close into the business and ask for the feedback. I know it's so logical, but a lot of leaders need to do it more. Stay close to the business, ask for feedback, know what's going on, and if you have those healthy skeptics, they will tell you, boss, I'm confused. That's a sign. All right, that's my cue. Thank you.